my mother. As many of you know who saw my show, I grew up in Philly with a very vivacious mother, very, very vocal mother, a very powerful mother. And she was gorgeous. She kind of looked a little bit like Elizabeth Taylor, built like Elizabeth Taylor. And she was really beautiful. But she had these quirky things that she would say that were very Philly in scope. Just little sayings which I've been thinking about all week. And so the two I really wanted to talk about. The one I wanted to bring up was, the first one is when we were having dinner. I mean, she had a great wit. I know I get a lot of my sarcasm from her. And I'm grateful for that. It's clearly my entire ministry. So I remember we would sit at the table and we'd just wait to see who would ask what's for dessert. And my mother would say, "Dessert the table." And we'd all leave the table, and that was that, and no one questioned her. And then she used to say something that I'm sure many of your mothers said, which is, "Stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about." Anybody else? Right. And those Philly women knew how to say that in a way that scared the crap out of you. You're like, "Okay, done, tears in." But who knew she was so metaphysical? Stop crying or the universe will give you something to cry about. Stop anything, or the universe will give you whatever that is equal to. That's our philosophy. So I had no idea that my mother was such a metaphysician. I really didn't. I thought she was just a Philly mother that did those sort of things. I also have this great quote. A Freudian slip is when you say one thing, but you mean your mother. I'll wait for the rest of you to get it. Yeah, right? So I know, and Ellen said it in her way, I know that a lot of you have different relationships with your mothers. Some people have good relationships, healthy relationships with their mothers. Others have not so good relationships, perhaps destructive relationships with their mothers. Some of you have memories of your mothers that you don't like, that you wish you didn't have. And some of you have amazing memories. Some of you have mothers that are still alive, that you have relationships with. And some of you have mothers, like I do, who passed away. My mother passed away way too early. She was only 44. And I was 20. 19, really. I turned 20 a couple days after she passed. So we all have different relationships with our mothers. And that's the world of form. That's the world of effect. Everything that's ever happened to me regarding my mother, anyway, my memories, all that, it's all back there. Who I am now is someone who has the wherewithal and the consciousness to look at all of it from a much higher level of understanding. And that's what I'd like to offer to everyone today. A way to come to a relationship with your own particular mother. Or, because I will tell you this, growing up, my mother was a very complex woman. And at a certain point in her life, she became an alcoholic. And her entire personality changed drastically. And I did not recognize that particular mother. And so that was a little confusing as I got older and she was going through that. I look back on it now, and I have such love in my heart for what this woman went through. I even have love in my heart for the abuse that came this way because of it. Or for all the things in the past I used to say I was a victim to what happened to me as a child. Not anymore. I get it. I also understand who she was and why perhaps she drank. You know, coming from a different consciousness now, understanding people, I can look back and go, I get it. You weren't happy. You didn't get to live the life you wanted to live. And how many of us don't get to live the life we want to live and suddenly realize, oh wait, it's not that I don't get to live the life I want to live, I just haven't chosen to live the life I want to live. And I can look back and go, she didn't know she could choose to live the life she wanted to live. But guess what? That is not an excuse for any of us anymore. We don't get to use that excuse. And we also then shouldn't have to find things to replace our dreams and ideas, to numb us, which is what happens in many of those situations. So this whole concept of looking back at motherhood, fatherhood, and this whole idea, I want to really, as Holland Taylor says, disabuse you of the notion that you are stuck with all of that. When I was a teenager, early teenager, actually around 10, 11, 12, my mother's sister really stepped in as my mother. Her name is Carolyn. And she really stepped in because my mom kind of stepped out. But as the universe works, one stepped out, but one stepped in, who would be a mother figure to me for the rest of my life, and who knew my mother was going to then depart in less than 10 years. So this woman is still in my life today. I talk to her at least twice a week. And she's a Philly gal, just like my mother. So she has a lot of those, when I call her, and she kind of sounds now like Brenda Vaccaro. So I'll call, I say hi, she goes, "Hey, Jimmy, how are you?" And it's really fun. If you're watching, I know you're going to kill me, absolutely kill me. And I know you're watching. So all of you have someone that takes that place. And if you don't, then what I would know is that you took it yourself, for yourself. So I'd like to read what Ernest Holmes wrote about the feminine energy, because in the end, it really is about the feminine energy. Now, when I teach this in Science of Mind class, I get into such trouble when we go to masculine and feminine energy. Almost everybody has said, well, the women. The women have a really hard time with this concept because Ernest Holmes taught this teaching this way. The masculine energy is the cause, is the power. And the feminine energy, as Ellen said, is the womb, is the receiver. But what you don't realize is the feminine energy makes it all happen. So the masculine energy can say what it wants till time in all eternity. But if it isn't equal to what it's saying, the feminine energy is not giving it to you. The feminine energy is saying yes to whatever you say. Whatever you say. And the really great thing about the feminine energy is it is so intuitive. The feminine energy does not put up with your BS, your belief system. The feminine energy does not put up with the other BS either. Because you can tell it all you want, but that feminine energy is going to say, I know what you really believe, and that's what you're getting. So you can tell me you want prosperity, but just yesterday you spent 5 hours complaining about how there's no money. So guess what you're getting? Another 5 hours of experiencing no money. That's how it works. Women are like that. I wanted to talk on Mother's Day because I thought, let's see how far I can go without really getting stoned. So, I mean from you, not from me. But I love that idea of the feminine energy. Because guess what? I have a lot, in case you didn't know, I have a lot of feminine energy. We all do. Because the energy inside of you is both masculine and feminine. Why do you think we say Father, Mother, God? Because it's not just the masculine energy that we've been brought up with our whole lives. It's Father, Mother, God, meaning the masculine and the feminine coming together to create. You can't have the feminine without the masculine, and you can't have the masculine without the feminine, because it's really one thing. One thing. They just work brilliantly together, so much so that it's one thing. So Ernest Holmes said this: the feminine principle of life is the universal soul. And Ellen said this: in each of us, it is what has been called the womb of nature, because it is receptive to the Spirit and impregnated with divine ideas. It gives birth to the ideas of the Spirit and is therefore the feminine principle of nature. The feminine principle of nature. So the title of my talk, as Ellen already told you today, is M.O.M, Mind Over Matter. So the first thing I want to say to you is, what does it matter what's going on in your world when you have a mind to overcome anything? What does it matter? The only matter is what you give it. Whatever you decide matters. So you've got to ask yourself, what really matters in life? Does it really matter that boom, 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 all this may have happened? It doesn't. What matters is that you have a mind to be over the matter. And when I say over the matter, I don't necessarily mean above it, saying, I'm in charge. I mean, get over it, Blanche. She's a little Dr. Walker today. It's about that. Do you know how powerful your mind is? And here's the thing about celebrating Mother's Day today. I read a quote about mothers saying that no matter who your mother is, what your mother was like, there is a central energy inside of that mother energy that can never, ever do anything but love you. Unconditional love. It doesn't matter if that mother was gone at birth. That love never leaves you. It surrounds you. It's what you are. It's who you are. And what we know about the soul in Science of Mind is that this energy is literally sitting there waiting for you to tell it what to do. It is an amazing, amazing tool. And it's an amazing energy, this love. So mind over matter means that you have the opportunity at every moment in your life to decide what you want to do. Now, it's funny. This week, Martha called me, who's standing right there now, signing her own name. She should be smiling any minute. So she called me this week, and she said, "Oh my God, that song, A Mother's Prayer. How do I interpret this?" As if I would know. And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And she was like, "Well, just tell me. What's the first lyric, Karen?" I pray you'll be my eyes. So Martha says to me, "Who are we praying to? Who's going to be our eyes? We don't teach this. How am I supposed to interpret this?" Did you do it well, by the way? Yes. Oh. Yes, good. Yes, good. So it made me think, I pray you'll be my eyes. Who's that song to? We come from a construct of thinking that song is to God somewhere. I pray you'll be my eyes. I pray that you'll take care of my child. I pray that you will be there to tell my child what's going on. And I hear those words and I cry. Anybody else get tears in their eyes? I get it. But in the end, it really comes down to you and me. So if I'm hearing, I pray you'll be my eyes, I am talking about the me, the mother side of me, even though gay men are not mothers, the mother side of me that always, always sees my children as God, no matter what they're doing. And then as I was thinking about it, and we went through the whole song, Martha and I, there's a line in it that says, "Help me to let go." So let's start with this idea of, I pray you'll be my guide. We are talking to the mother energy inside of us at all times. And we're saying, what my prayer is, and a prayer for us is knowing the truth. So what I want to know is that I am guided by this divine energy, this beautiful energy, this life energy. No matter what's happening in my world, I am guided by that. And now I pray, and I know that I'm ready to let go. I am ready to let go and trust and know that the universe is living me from the inside out. That's what that song says to me in the end. And the whole idea of letting go, how many of you, I'm just going to ask you to ask yourself, how many of you have a hard time letting go? And the rest of you are all good with it. I'm going to believe you. So this idea of letting go, it's not so easy for me at times to let go. But here's what makes it easy. When I recognize what I'm letting go to. What am I turning this to? Who am I giving this over to? If I'm giving it over to Kevin, I have a hard time letting go. Anybody else? Turning it over to another person? How many of you are good at that? Well, not a lot of hands. Okay, so what do we turn it over to? And it says, when Karen sings, I pray to let go. I pray that I will let go. We're talking about turning, God's calling. We're talking about turning our mind over to something in us that is saying yes. Do you know how your mind would change, the thoughts would change, if you literally understood that everything you were believing was getting an affirmative response? Everything. Every thought. What if you grew up in a household, now I want you to think about this, what if you grew up in a household where your mother said to you, every time you asked, your mother just said yes? Everything you asked. Can I climb that tree? Yes. Can I jump out of it and see if I can fly? Yes. Can I jump in the pool? I don't know how to swim, but I bet I'll learn. Yes. No, we wouldn't do that. We would never just say yes to everything. We trust that we have a mother that's actually watching out for us. So what's this science doing for us? It's saying yes to everything. So where's the mother in that? Where is the truth in that? Where is the oversoul in that? Well, this is what we believe. We believe that our lives are unfolding perfectly, and that no matter what, we are always evolving. So when I say I'm willing to let go, I am willing to let go to the universe saying yes to me. And not me telling the universe how to do it. How many of you are still trying to tell the universe how your life should unfold? How many of you are James at the camera. How many of you are still trying to say, this is what I want, and this is how I'm going to get it? And it has to be this way. Well, the universe is really just reading underneath that, the subtext saying, okay, so clearly you don't trust me. You don't trust me, because if you did trust me, you'd stop telling me how to do it. You would just let it unfold. So that's the consciousness of the mother energy. To really get it, that inherent in that affirmative answer, inherent in saying yes to you, is a nurturing, loving, unconditionally loving energy that is always, always, always moving you in the right direction. Now, the father energy comes in by you literally deciding how you want to experience it. The mother energy never shifts, never changed. The feminine energy never shifts, never changes. It is impersonal to a fault. It, on one sense, you can say it doesn't care, but on the other sense, what I really say is it cares so much in an unconditionally loving way that it can only answer you in the affirmative. That's the truth. The masculine energy is the energy with which you decide how you want to experience life. So if you're sitting here today thinking that you don't necessarily love your experience of life, and I won't ask for hands, but any of you that absolutely say to yourself, I don't really love everything I'm experiencing right now, you have within you the wherewithal and this divine energy that's just waiting for you to tell it what to do. And it's going to say yes. When I was growing up in Philadelphia, as you all know, I grew up in a family with a cop and a very powerful mother. And there were a lot of rules. I mean, we had to say yes, sir, and no, sir. I mean, it was really, my son, when I explained what it was like, he's like, God, you lived in a prison. And I was like, no, I lived in the 50s and the 60s. My two younger brothers, they didn't experience any of that. Because by the time 12 years went by and the next one came in, they were like, whatever. So they had a very different experience of my parents than we did. And so when I look through all of this, I really get a sense of what is this masculine, feminine, mother, father, God thing all about? Because truly, it's who you are. Most of us have come from religions where we really, everything we know about our past religion really is about a father, sky, God. And I know we all think we have risen above that, and we have all moved past that understanding. But every now and then, don't you notice there's still a little left over? And you just suddenly click into that, and it's like, wow, did I really just think that? I have a little story that I want to kind of close with, and it's this. My mother, when she was 42, was diagnosed with cancer. And back then, people didn't survive cancer. They just didn't. They didn't have what they have now. And so she just went downhill. And what was fascinating to me was to now look back and see what I saw, to watch her disintegrate. And as she disintegrated physically, she came back to life emotionally. And she came back to life, she came back to the woman she was before she got sick. And so it was an interesting slide to watch the body go this way and the soul and the spirit come this way. On the day she died, September 4th, 1974, it was middle of the night. I was asleep, so they woke me up, and I went down and sat in the Barca Lounger, because we had two of them, and I sat there, and my mother came down the staircase And I didn't know this at the time, but she would die a few hours later. And then she was nothing. I mean, she used to be, Elizabeth Taylor, and now she looked like she was my grandmother's grandmother. I mean, that body had been that ravaged. She comes down the stairs, and she stops and looks at me, and she says, "Jimmy, I've set all the clothes out for the kids for school tomorrow, for Bobby and Craig." She says, "Make sure you get up in time to get them to school. I do not want them to miss school. Bobby has a test," and she just went down this litany of things to do, which at the time I was just like, my God, everybody tells me what to do. Because I was 19 years old, and I was a very different person. And so she left, and then a couple hours later, my father came home and told me that she had passed. And all I kept thinking of was like, do I get up and take them to school? Do I go? And I walked into my brother's room, and there were all of their clothes laid out. Hours before this woman passed. In the kind of pain I can't even imagine, she had gone into their rooms and set up everything. A mother's love never ends, no matter what's going on. She knew what was going on. She knew what was happening. And in fact, I did get up that day, get them dressed. They knew their mother was in the hospital. We didn't tell them, and they went off to school. And then our lives all unfolded from that moment forward. And how I compare that today to this understanding of the soul, the feminine energy. Your soul, that center of you that always says yes, can never die. Ever. There is something in you that is indefatigable, that is unlimited, that will always say yes, that always has your back, that will always set out your clothes in the morning, that will always come through your mind, that will always allow you to know the highest and the best about yourself. If you rise in consciousness high enough to understand it that way and get out of the way of what matters in the world and get into the consciousness of what matters most. Mind over matter. It's all about the mind. Here's where the divine ideal is. Here's where the divine idea is. And here also is where the soul resides. The soul of each and every one of our mothers, past, present, or to come. The soul of every mother energy we've experienced, and the soul of our own mother energy. But most important, the universal soul. The soul that is always, always mothering us at all times to the top of its ability, which is so unlimited, none of us could ever fathom how much that love is there. Today's about tapping into love. Tapping into a love that is so free, our minds just cannot comprehend how much love there is to receive. Because that's how much love is pouring forth from this divine feminine energy, which is the center of every single one of us. So happy Mother's Day, happy Soul Day, happy Love Day, and I honor each and every one of your biological mothers. I honor each and every one of your chosen mothers, and I honor every motherhood that's to come in your family, because that's all that ever happens, one after the other, and all of them saying a divine yes. Namaste.